to that growing feud between R&B legends Anita Baker and Babyface. Baker saying she's dropping Babyface as an opening act on her tour because of online threats from his fans.
Sing it with me, sweet.
Anita Baker is 67, and now she is confirming the shocking rumor about her life and career, particularly the reason behind her divorce.
Separated in 2005, and their divorce was finalized about 2 years later.
After giving birth to their sons in the 90s, Anita took a break from music to focus on her family. But instead of making things better, what Anita got were marital secrets and problems that led to a controversial, publicly messy divorce from her husband.
It used to be that Anita Baker cranked out hot tunes. These days, she's more in tune with motherhood, birthing, bubbling, bouncing, baby Baker boys.
Anita also survived health issues, as well as having to fight with her record label over control of her masters. But what did it really cost her? Let's get into that.
And by the time I was like 12 years old, they would call me the little lady with the big voice.
Anita Denise Baker was born on January 26, 1958, in Toledo, Ohio. But she didn't grow up there. She was raised in Detroit, Michigan. Her early life was full of love, but also full of secrets and pain. When she was a baby, she was taken in by a kind couple, Granville and Mary Lewis.
She is not a very religious woman in the sense of being a fanatic, but on Sunday, children go to church. And children do not sleep in church.
They were older, and Anita believed they were her grandparents. They took care of her like their own child, and she grew up thinking they were her real family. They raised her with kindness, taught her right from wrong, and gave her a warm home.
Even when I started to know, just know that this is what I wanted, I didn't tell people that because I grew up in a practical place.
Anita loved living with the Lewis family. She felt happy and safe with them. She grew up close to their daughters and believed they were her sisters. In her heart, they were family. Anita has said in interviews that her childhood with the Lewis family was full of love. They made her feel important and valued. She learned how to care for others and how to be strong, even when life was hard. This strong love gave Anita the deep emotions she later used in her music. When people listened to her sing, they could feel the real feelings behind her voice. But Anita's world fell apart when both Granville and Mary Lewis passed away. She was still young and not ready to face such a huge loss. These were the people she had called her parents. Their death was like losing everything: her home, her family, and her sense of safety. While she was still grieving, Anita learned something that shocked her to the core. The Lewises were not her real grandparents. In fact, they weren't related to her at all. This was a heartbreaking truth that changed how she saw her entire past. Anita soon found out that her real mother was only 16 years old when she gave birth to her. Her father wasn't around and didn't help. Because she was just a teenager, her mother felt she couldn't raise a child. So she left baby Anita at the doorstep of the Lewis family. She hoped they could give the baby the love and care she couldn't provide. At first, Anita was hurt and confused by this. She couldn't understand why her mother gave her away. It felt like rejection, and it left a hole in her heart. As Anita got older, she began to understand more. She realized her mother was very young and likely scared. She didn't have the tools or support to take care of a baby. In an interview with Essence magazine, Anita said she came to accept this painful truth. She saw that her mother was just a child trying to survive. Even though it still hurt, Anita was able to forgive and find peace. It took time, but she finally made peace with her past. Anita has said that her childhood was very confusing. She told the Sun Sentinel that she grew up surrounded by people who loved her, but she didn't always know how they were connected to her. There were many relatives, friends, and caregivers, but no one explained the full story. She said, "I still couldn't figure it all out. There are so many missing pieces to the puzzle. Back in those days, families didn't talk about things like adoption or where a child came from. Adults kept secrets, and children were expected not to ask questions. This left Anita feeling lost and unsure about who she really was.
I know what I can do and what I can't do. And there are a lot of things that I cannot do. People think that what they hear on record is something that just came right off the top of my head, very spontaneous. It's not true. It's a lot of hard work.
After Granville and Mary passed away, Anita's life changed again. She went to live with a woman named Lois Landry. All her life, Anita thought Lois was her older sister. But later, she found out Lois was really her aunt. Lois and her husband legally adopted Anita and raised her as their daughter. This gave Anita a chance to feel loved and cared for again. Lois provided a stable home, a place where Anita could begin healing and rebuilding her life. Anita often called Lois her Earth Mother because she grounded her and gave her support. Even though Anita had found a new home, her journey wasn't easy. One day, her biological mother showed up without warning. This meeting brought up many emotions that Anita had buried deep inside. It was painful and confusing. In an interview with Vibe magazine, Anita said that meeting her birth mother in that way affected her deeply. It made her feel unstable and unsure of herself. She said, "Your beginnings are important. I do think meeting her like that was the reason I got into trouble later." The visit brought back all the pain from the past. As a teenager, Anita struggled a lot. She worked at Lois's beauty shop to help out, but she often broke the rules. She was expelled from several high schools. She had trouble controlling her emotions and staying on the right path. Her teenage years were filled with ups and downs, and she had to fight hard just to keep going. But Anita didn't give up. She knew she wanted something better. She had a love for music and believed it could take her away from her problems. Anita followed her dreams and worked hard to make music her career. She joined different bands and performed whenever she could. One of the bands she joined was called Chapter 8. They were very talented and started to gain attention. They even got a record deal and toured across the United States. This was the beginning of Anita's journey into the world of music. Even though her early life was full of heartbreak, Anita used those painful experiences to bring emotion and power to her songs.
I met Anita in Detroit. Our group Chapter 8 were performing at a club.
Anita was finally getting close to her dream. She had joined a band called Chapter 8, and things were looking up. People were beginning to notice her voice, and it felt like her big break was just around the corner. But then, something unexpected happened. The music label that Chapter 8 was signed to merged into another company called Arista Records. This change caused a lot of confusion and problems. As a result, Chapter 8 broke up, and just like that, Anita's chance at success disappeared. She was heartbroken. After working so hard, it felt like everything had been taken away in a moment. With her music career on hold, Anita had to find a way to survive. She didn't have a lot of money, and she needed to pay her bills. So she did what many people do when times get hard. She took regular jobs. Anita worked as a cook, served food in restaurants as a waitress, and also got a job as a receptionist. These jobs were not glamorous, but they helped her get by. Even though she wasn't singing on stage, she never stopped loving music. Deep inside, she still held on to the hope that one day she would return to it. Music had always been a big part of who she was, and that love never left her heart.
And we saw her with this other band singing background, so we approached her and said, "Hey, would you like to sing with us?" And she said, "Sure." And the next thing you know, she was with the band, and we did a lot of work with a lot of groups.
In 1983, Anita got her first big chance as a solo artist. She signed a deal with a small record company called Beverly Glen Music. This was a big step for her. She worked hard and released her first solo album, The Songstress. It was a proud moment for her, but everything didn't go smoothly. Soon, Anita realized that the contract she had signed wasn't fair. She wasn't getting the money or respect she deserved. The people running the label didn't treat her well, and they didn't listen to her ideas. But Anita was not afraid to speak up. Even though some people called her difficult, she stood her ground. She said, "They call me a bee because I know what I want and I know how to ask for it." She wasn't being rude. She was being honest. As her fame grew, Anita went on tour with Luther Vandross, another big name in music. At first, it seemed like a dream come true, but behind the scenes, things were not perfect. According to a report from the Baltimore Sun, Anita and Luther started having problems. Anita, who was known for being strong and outspoken, started getting frustrated. She would sometimes take her anger out on people around her, like her band members or the staff. Things got so bad between her and Luther that a venue in Boston had to put up curtains backstage so the two of them wouldn't see each other. Anita didn't like being around too many people. She preferred to keep a small group of trusted folks near her before a performance, and she didn't want strangers in her space.
We were allowed to record one project or one album for this company, after which they did not pick up our option to do a second album, and we wanted to know why. And they basically said that they didn't feel that we had what it took to make it in the music business. Again, I wouldn't have traded it for nothing.
In 2023, Anita made headlines again, but not for her music. She was in the news because of an issue at one of her concerts. She was on tour and supposed to perform with another famous singer, Babyface.
We turn now to that growing feud between R&B legends Anita Baker and Babyface. Baker saying she's dropping Babyface as an opening act on her tour because of online threats from his fans.
But in Newark, New Jersey, fans were shocked when Babyface didn't perform. He later said on Twitter that he had been asked not to perform that night so Anita could have more time on stage. He said he and his band were very sad they didn't get to perform for the fans. This message upset a lot of people online.
Unfortunately, this breaks my heart, y'all. Unfortunately, Babyface won't
Many fans took Babyface's side. Some said Anita had a history of being rude or hard to work with. One fan tweeted that even though they loved her music, they didn't like the way Babyface was treated. Others began bringing up old stories about her past behavior. Singer Stephanie Mills also spoke up and said she was disappointed by the situation. She didn't like how things were handled and felt it could have been done better.
These are two icons in R&B music. Those of us who are a certain age, they soundtrack our lives. So the hope is that they will figure it out and get it together very soon.
Anita didn't stay silent. In June 2023, she responded on Twitter. She said that it wasn't her fault that Babyface didn't perform. She blamed the company that organized the concert, Live Nation. She said she had done her job and showed up on time. She didn't ask for any special treatment. Anita also took the chance to clear up other rumors. People had said she had problems with other singers like Maxwell and the late Luther Vandross. Anita explained that she never had a contract with Maxwell to tour with him. About Luther, she admitted they had their differences, but said they always gave great performances and made fans happy. Even though people were saying bad things about her, Anita didn't let it break her. She stood up for herself and told the truth. She made sure people knew she wasn't the one causing problems. She had always fought for what was fair and right, even if others didn't like it. Back in 1986, something else happened that changed Anita's life in a very personal way. During one of her shows, she met a man named Walter Bridgeforth. He worked in real estate, and he became a big part of her life. When they first met, Walter told Anita that he had bought her album for each of his 6 sisters. He asked her for a hug, and Anita joked, "For 6 albums, you can get a hug, brother." That funny moment led to something more. Walter gave Anita his phone number, and before long, she was calling him every night. But their relationship wasn't simple. Walter was already in a long-term relationship with another woman. Anita knew this, but she continued seeing him. She loved him, but it hurt her when he didn't treat her as a priority. Sometimes she would call him and he would tell her, "I got company," which meant he was with the other woman. This made Anita feel like she was just the side woman, and it caused her a lot of pain.
Because I think about you, baby, from beginning to end, 365 days.
Anita struggled with this situation for a long time. She knew she couldn't go on living in such confusion. She wanted to know where she stood. One day, she wrote Walter a card. In it, she said, "I love you. I enjoy being with you. But if you need to do something else, I respect that. I won't bother you anymore." It was one of the hardest things she had ever done, but she needed peace. Finally, in 1988, Anita got the answer she had been waiting for. Walter chose her. He committed to the relationship, and Anita no longer felt like a second choice. She felt valued and loved. It was a big relief after so much emotional struggle. That moment gave her the strength to keep going, both in love and in her music.
It used to be that Anita Baker cranked out hot tunes. These days, she's more in tune with motherhood, birthing, bubbling, bouncing baby Baker boys.
Unfortunately, she suffered a miscarriage, which added even more emotional weight to what she was already going through. In 1990, while Anita Baker was working on her music and getting ready to release a new album, she went through something very hard. She suffered a second miscarriage, which was a huge emotional blow for her. Despite the sadness, Anita had already promised to go on tour, so she decided to keep going with her work. But as the tour went on, things only got harder for her. Anita started to struggle emotionally. She asked her team to let her go home so she could rest, but instead, her schedule kept getting busier. More concerts were added, and she had no choice but to keep going. By January 1991, during a tour stop in Chicago, things reached a breaking point. Anita had a breakdown that left her feeling completely overwhelmed. In 1992, Anita found out she was pregnant for the third time. Her doctor recommended a new surgical procedure to help her carry the baby to full term. Although the procedure was needed, it came with several rules that made it hard for Anita to focus on her music career. She couldn't create new songs the way she used to. But despite the challenges, the procedure worked, and Anita was able to carry her baby. In January 1993, she gave birth to her son, Walter Jr., which brought a lot of joy to her life. Just a few months later, in May 1994, Anita discovered she was pregnant again. This time, she gave birth to her second son, Edward, making her family even bigger.
Today, Anita's home audience has doubled because Walter, now 17 months old, has a new baby brother named Eddie.
But Anita faced even bigger challenges in her personal life. She opened up to Essence magazine about her Earth mother battling Alzheimer's disease, along with other family members struggling with health problems. These tough times made Anita decide to stay closer to home so she could support her family. She even set up a recording studio in her house. But during her music sessions, she'd often get calls from the hospital, interrupting everything. She describes her 10-year break as if she was pulled into another world. The music had to wait. Life was calling, and she had no choice but to answer. During that time, Anita tried to write songs, but they wouldn't come. She tried to create an album, but it felt impossible. "I wanted to do everything," she says. "Be a singer, songwriter, producer, and also a mother, wife, and daughter. But music is not easy for me. It doesn't come when I'm stressed. Music waits for me to be ready. It's like, come back when you're done." Sadly, Anita lost her Earth mother, her adoptive father, and her birth mother in a short period. She described how she felt stuck in a cycle of loss and grief. Every time she would bury a family member, she would try to work through the pain. But then, another heartbreaking loss would come. "Life decided for me," Anita explained. Her health, her children, and her marriage came first. Those were her choices, and she had to face them. She said, "No sacrifice is too big for family, whether it's career, singing, or anything else." And she was willing to give it all up. As if that wasn't enough, Anita had to juggle her responsibilities as a mother while dealing with problems in her marriage. Her children needed more attention, and her marriage started to fall apart. In an honest chat with the Baltimore Sun, Anita shared that she filed for divorce. However, after going through therapy sessions together, she and her husband worked things out and reconciled. After taking a break from her career, Anita felt ready to focus on her music again. The desire to return to the stage and do what she loved was stronger than ever. She was excited to start the next chapter of her life, both personally and professionally. Anita made a big decision to hire a new manager who understood how important it was to balance her career with her family life. This manager knew that spending time with her children was just as important as her busy performance schedule. Thanks to this support, Anita could go back on tour, knowing her family was being taken care of at home. During this time, her husband played a big role in looking after their kids and even opened an IHOP restaurant in Detroit in 2004. After a long 10-year break from releasing albums, Anita made a huge comeback with the album My Everything in 2004. Fans were thrilled to hear new music from the talented singer. She followed this up with a Christmas album in 2005. But despite her return to music, Anita faced personal struggles. She and her husband Walter went through another separation and eventually decided to divorce. As part of their divorce settlement, Walter was given 50% of the royalties from two of Anita's biggest albums, Giving You the Best That I Got and Rhythm of Love. After the divorce, Walter disagreed with a $112,000 royalty payment he received from Anita. To resolve this, a court-appointed expert looked into the situation. The expert contacted record companies and carefully reviewed the details. In the end, they came up with a fair settlement that both Anita and Walter agreed on, so they could move forward without any more legal issues. Once the divorce was behind her, Anita could focus on what she loved most, making music. She recorded a version of Tyrese's hit song, Lately, which earned her a Grammy nomination. This proved, once again, how talented she was. This song was meant to be part of her album, Only Forever, showing that Anita was back and stronger than ever in her music career.